That's great. So if everyone's there to draw along, that's fantastic. But if not, don't worry about it. I've had a slight change of plan going on from feedback from last week. So we're still going to be working on portraits, if that's okay, going forward. But I thought we'd stick with the little circle theme that I started last week. We're going to look at creating the face, if you like, out of these circles lit up over a couple of weeks. So I'm going to show you how to turn. We'll start with a nose today, and I'll upload a little image, a reference to the Facebook page. If you could work on that for next week, that would be great. But I'm going to give you a little starting point to go with now. And we're just, every time we're going to start with a circle because it's so simple, because everyone knows what a circle is. Everyone knows how to, and then follow these steps and turn it into something that resembles something else. So hopefully you can see me. I'm going to use quite a dark pencil so you can, because the white balance was a bit naff last time, wasn't it? So to start a nose, actually, I'm going to start with a straight line. We'll just start with a straight line horizontally across your page. Shall I come a bit closer? That's probably a bit better, isn't it? I come a bit there.
Well, light's ever so hard on Zoom. Sound and light. Apart from that, Zoom's brilliant for video.
There we go. Try that curtain there. That's a bit better.
There we go.
So within that line, let's try and put a circle somewhere in the middle, with the bottom of the circle resting on that line. You see that? That looks okay. Let's try and keep that way. And then let's put two more, about half the height and width of those, just either side of it, like that. I don't know about you, but I can start to see a nose there. Hopefully, you can see how it might become a nose. So let's try and bring that a bit together. These are going to be so let's put some little arches there. In that gap between the big and smaller circles. And we'll turn them into sort of semicircles, if you like, black them out. So hopefully, it's really not that easy to show you. It looks like it on mine anyway. So I'll take a picture of it as well, and I'll upload the picture of what I've done in the session as well. So you can see how I sort of got to that point. Now we're going to use, we mentioned last week, an imaginary bit of light. So I'm going to pretend that there's a bit coming from this way like I did last time. And let's now try and use almost like a squashed S shape. So an S shape is sort of like, well, that's a 2, but I'm coming from that way. So if I was going from that way, I'd use an S, but let's say a 2 shape instead, but a bit curvier. Let's imagine sort of stretching that out quite a bit. So it becomes more like that. And let's put that there. So this curve at the bottom of your stretched out 2 cradles that big ball that we started with there and comes up there like that. Now, what might be helpful if you're still struggling to see a bit of a nose there, let's try and build a bit more of a triangle base coming up from the sides here, like that. So obviously I do those a lot lighter, but I've gone really dark so you can see what I'm drawing at here. And now we need bring those down a bit there, extending that circle from this sort of shape down like that here, giving you this sort of cartilage bit in between your nose there. So it's coming together quite nicely, but let's try and define these these shapes a little bit more. So instead of having circles, let's try and make them look a bit more like some nostrils, and extend down again. So we've got these smaller circles over here. Let's try and bring those down. And always look in a mirror, because you've got a nose, most of you, I think. So if you struggle at any point with any of my directions, look in a mirror at your own nose or on the screen at someone else's nose, and try and see if you can see the bits that I'm drawing and describing on yourself or on someone else. A family member, as I said, a mirror. Okay. So it still just looks like a lot of lines. I'm not going to lie to you. So this is where we start thinking about that shading that we did last week on that circle. Do you remember where we had a circle and we imagined that there was some light coming from that way? So there's a shadow coming from there. And we just try to turn it into something that looks like a ball rather than a flat circle. So let's try and do that a bit now. And let's imagine we've got our light coming from this way. So this S, well, this squashed 2 that we used here is actually the start of our shadow. So what you've got to remember is that if you've got a light, I'm going to use myself, if you've got a light coming from that way, this side of your nose is going to be completely blocked from the light that's coming from that direction, because your nose sticks out off the side, off the front of your face. Almost like a shark fin, imagine that. So this is where the light is not going to hit at all. But saying that, because it protrudes off the face, the light is going to hit that edge. This glass is in the way. This edge here. And be a lot brighter than it is down there, because it sticks out so far, it catches it. So to make it look slightly more nose-like, we'll almost copy that squashed 2 shape that we put there over here, but keep it lighter. Try and be a lot lighter with your touch of whatever you're using to draw today. And we'll imagine that for now. Where else should I go next? And the same applies down here, because of course it doesn't just stick out up there, it sticks out up here as well. So we can bring in a bit more. And this circle here that we started off with is meant to represent the very end of your nose, this particularly protruding bit. And these bits, your nostrils. So this is actually sticking out in front of these. These 2 balls are sitting back behind that ball. So let's try and send that back a bit, like that. So hopefully, in some way, you should have something a bit off. Go a bit closer. You should have something that looks a bit like that. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. But you can see how quick you can get that result. And it just started with 3 balls on a line. So if you can work from that and practice just having those 3 balls, 1 big one, 2 half the size of it either side on a straight line, and that sort of stretched out 2 shape here. That builds your nose. You could even, if you wanted to, start with that squashed out 2 and turn it into the circle and start to get a nose there. But as I said, I will take a photo of that slightly with better lighting and a slightly better drawing than that rough one that I've just done for you. And I have got a long-term plan with what we're going to be doing, and it involves the reference images that I'm going to upload for you. So we're going to start with a nose. So practice this method. It's just a nose off the top of my head. This one. But this is the best way to approach it. So I'm going to upload a reference to the Facebook group a bit later on. And I want you to try and replicate that nose. It's just going to be a picture of a nose cut off a face. I want you to try and replicate that nose using these methods that we've got on the go here, if that's okay.
What's the pun intended there, by any chance, Tom?
I don't know what you mean.
Nose off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But
Quite funny. I try it. I try my best.